So good afternoon, everybody. So after such an, interesting panel, it's really hard for someone like me to come and hold your attention again because, there's just so much useful information. Having said that, I have some good news. Between Dr. Yadav and Mr. Ravi Kumar Nair, I think both of them just left the room. Oh, they're there. Okay. The good news is that they said almost everything that I have to say. So my task has become much, much easier. I remember Mr. Ravi Kumar saying two things which stood out for me. One, that 70% of chemical logistics is still done by road, right? And that's a huge, background for everything that I'm going to say, right? And that makes it far more relevant. The second thing that he very, very rightfully mentioned was, all about safety. There's very little safety which comes through in the policies. He talked about ADAS, he talked about, vehicle tracking, he talked about active safety, passive safety. Very little left for me to say. Thank you very much, sir. And then, of course, Dr. Yadav, covered everything in minute detail. So, really, really thankful for the opportunity to be here today. I thank the Indian Chemical News for letting us be a part of this auspicious gathering. They say that, you never know when and where disaster is going to hit you next. All of you have heard this, and I'm sure you've witnessed this. In fact, I live in Bangalore, and we got a really, really bitter taste of it a couple of weeks ago when unprecedented rainfall hit the city. I know that Mumbai has gone through this multiple times and had its own suffering from it. But when you think back, right, a lot of these disasters are actually invariably connected to what we as humans do. In the case of Bangalore, stormwater drains which link lake to lake to lake in Bangalore traditionally with a diameter of things like 25 to 30 feet, because of encroachment and buildings, have been reduced to 3 feet in diameter. So when you have rainfall like that, what do you expect, right? And here we're talking about disasters of that scale. Look at what we do every day. Mr. Nair actually said that there are 170,000 deaths on the road in India, right? Every 4 minutes. I think unfortunately, since this session began, maybe, so many people have lost their lives on the road. And invariably, this is either due to a lack of skill, a lack of training, a lack of monitoring, or basically the lack of using technology which is available today, right? And I just wanted to show you one real clip, and I don't mean to be, morose or disaster-provoking here, but I just want to show you something which was on the news very recently. Just have a look at what happens on the screen. And that's real, right? That has just happened, I believe, a few weeks ago. Most of you would have, sorry? Yeah, just about a week ago, right? A lot of you would have seen it on the news. I can try and play it again. But my point is, imagine if that truck was so this was a huge disaster. I'm not going to say that this was small by any means. But imagine if that truck was carrying so many metric tons of hazardous chemicals, right? What would the impact be? The impact would probably be, correct me if I'm wrong, all of you, because you actually know this far better than I do. The impact of that would be probably, 100 times the impact of this accident, potentially, right? So, the plea that we as Netradyne have is very similar to what Mr. Ravi Kumar was saying. We have the technology today, maybe not to completely eradicate accidents, maybe not to get safety to a 100% level, but we have the technology today to actually reduce accidents by 40 to 50%. Let's, as a group, use the technology which is available. And with that, I'll just, and I don't want to preach to the choir here, because all of you know this more than I do. Here, I just listed some key fleet concerns that all of you probably face day in and day out, right? It's all about being able to have a consistent process, monitor, improve safety, minimize your exposure to litigation, and so therefore exoneration becomes very important. And then, of course, all the associated costs that go with any kind of an event on the road have to be managed well, right? A quick background as to who we are. We're a company called Netradyne. We've been in existence for about 6.5 years now. We do most of what Mr. Nair alluded to earlier. We're in the business of using ADAS technologies to improve driver behavior on the roads, to improve safety, and therefore to actually save lives, right? We just I think 6 weeks ago, globally, Forbes released a list of top 50 companies that they believe are making a difference in the AI world. We were privileged to be amongst those 50, right? We're a company which is dual headquartered in India as well as in the US. Our entire R&D happens in the US, happens in India. Our entire manufacturing happens in India, and today we export globally. We have most of you would probably be familiar with how AI and ML work, right? And for AI and ML to really work, you need huge amounts of data. We're fortunate to have 6 billion driving miles of video data behind us, which gives us the ability to give you predictions which are really, really accurate, right? We have 2,000 plus customers across the globe, about close to 200,000 devices and trucks on the road. We started our business very, very consciously limiting ourselves to US and in India. And the reason for that is obviously the driving behaviors of the two geographies are probably the most polar opposites. So if a device can work in the US as well as in India, most likely it'll fit into most roads with a little bit of flexibility. So that's where we started. We're now present in ANZ, in UK. We will be launching in Germany next quarter. We're in late trials in Malaysia, Mexico, in South Africa, and so on and so forth. So we are now on that path of really becoming global. Our primary investors were actually RIL to start with. Then we have Microsoft Ventures as well as Point72 who came in. And then late in July last year, SoftBank came in with our Series C funding. We're now about 1,000 crore company, and we're growing 2x year on year as we speak. And what do? We basically have a combination of hardware and software. And the hardware is actually, most of the stuff is on display. What you see on the left extreme is actually the device, which has two cameras, one pointing outward on the road, one pointing inward at the driver. We have a very comprehensive portal, which we call the Integrated Driver Management System, which is on the notebook PC screen. We have a driver eye app, which the driver as well as the fleet manager can use to get all their alerts and all the details of what's happening on the vehicle on their mobile device. And then we have extensions. So there are a lot of companies who want more than two cameras. They want to focus on all directions of the vehicle. So we have the ability to connect 4 additional cameras on the sides of the vehicle, at the back of the vehicle, potentially even inside the vehicle, to actually monitor exactly what's happening, right? But that's just the hardware. This is really where the intelligence comes in. We analyze almost everything there is to be analyzed, right? From heartbreaking events, low G-force events, right through to vision-based events, such as, for example, in Western countries and in countries where road signs are fairly consistent, we actually recognize speed signs, stop signs, traffic lights, U-turn signs. Unfortunately, in India, we don't have that consistency yet. But in India, we do monitor following distance and issue forward collision warning because of that. So all this is from the outward-looking camera. The inward-looking camera monitors the driver. So monitors, is he wearing a seatbelt? Is he talking on the phone? Is he drowsy, right? Is he distracted? All of this actually gets monitored by the inward-looking camera. So anytime there is an infraction, which means anytime there is a breach in the threshold of any one of these areas, an in-cab alert comes to the driver saying that, you need to correct this, as well as a minute-long video gets uploaded onto the cloud, which is visible for the fleet manager to see, and as well as the driver eye app, which the driver is carrying, so he can also access, what has actually happened, right? In addition, we have a number of utilities like visual login systems, so that drivers can be actually attributed to vehicles. We have live streaming, which means that you can actually press a button on your console and see exactly what's happening on your vehicle at that point of time, and so on. So a number of utilities which actually make the entire process of driving seamless and safer. In fact, globally, Amazon is our largest customer. They have about upwards of 100,000 devices from us globally. And they have themselves published statistics saying that in their vehicles, and by the way, they're only using it for last mile deliveries so far. They've just started using it for middle mile and long haul. Just for the last mile, they have published statistics which say that their accident rates have come down by 40%. So the impact of our technology is actually very, very real. In fact, I can say the name, I can't publish it, but these are statistics actually from Shell in India. Shell in India has mandated that their entire fleet of tankers will not ply on the road unless our device is functional. Okay, so it's almost like mission critical for them. And this is actually real statistics from their fleet. This is the number of alerts on the y-axis, and the years that they've deployed us, on the x-axis, and the number of alerts on the y-axis are per 200 minutes of drive time. So when they actually deployed our technology, they were getting an alert every 1.5 to 2 hours. Okay, alerts of different kinds, infractions done by driving, whether it's speeding, whether it is, harsh braking, whether it is anything to do with the driver, right? They were getting an alert every 1.5 to 2 hours. Today, they're actually getting something like 0.08, right? So the reduction is that exponential and steep. So when people say that, technology does not work on Indian roads, this is living proof that it does, right? However, there is a caveat here, right? Technology must also be able to adapt to Indian roads. For example, if I were to transport a device which works in the US to India, just the following distance would give me constant beeps in the cabin, right? Because in the US, 10 feet is considered dangerous as a separation. Here it's probably, 6 inches or 10 inches, right? But that's in jest. But you have to be able to, be able to recognize auto rickshaws, be able to warn against animals crossing the road, right? These are all very real, and these need to be able to be done, and we're able to do it because we chose to actually manufacture in India and have the ability to adapt to the different geographies that we're in. And finally, none of this works unless you're able to improve driver behavior, right? And invariably, when we talk about coaching drivers, it's always pointing a finger. Tumne ye theek nahi kiya, right? We believe that there is a different way to do this, and we believe that positive recognition of driving behavior helps a lot for drivers to be able to adapt the technology. So we have a very extensive scoring mechanism where every fleet will know who are their drivers and how they rank from one to the bottom. And there are multiple ways to coach drivers. You have manual coaching, which the fleet manager can do based on the videos which have got uploaded by that driver. There are automated ways where the system will actually throw up every week, say 3 videos on the driver's Driver Eye app and say, you know what, if you change these 2 or 3 behaviors, you will get a high green zone score, which then gets rewarded. Not only that, even on normal day-to-day roads, we reward good behavior. For example, you're on a highway, right? And if you're at a particular speed and there is a car or another vehicle which comes from your right-hand side into your lane, right? If the driver actually slows down to give way to that vehicle to get in front of him, we consider that as good driving behavior, right? We actually give him what we call, Driver Eye stars. So he gets recognized, and he's very proud of the fact that his green zone score has gone up, right? So as we go on this journey of making roads safer, protecting against events happening is one way, but the longer term solution is to actually improve driving behavior. And this is what our technology has been really accepted worldwide for. Okay? I know that Praveen's looking at me with very round and big eyes. My time is up, and I know that very, very well. Very, very quickly, I won't go through this, but at the end of the day, how many of you remember Munna Bhai MBBS? A lot of you do, right? So when I was first asked to, given the opportunity to come and speak here, the first phrase which hit me was chemical locha, right? Then I said, our entire aim is to try and ensure that there is no chemical locha on Indian roads, right? So in summary, what we do is we protect precious and hazardous cargo, we make roads safer, and we save lives. And we're proud of doing it as a Make in India company. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Do I have time to take questions, Praveen? 2 or 3?
We can have one question.
Any questions? I've been allowed one question. Guys, somebody ask me a question.
Sir, Mike.
Question there.
Great presentation, and I think fine product. But are you also selling this to vehicle application and they can introduce it as it is produced rather than a product manufacturer.
Absolutely. So great question, sir. And what you're referring to is what we call the OEM segment of the market, right? We are talking to a couple of the largest commercial vehicle manufacturers in India. The challenges of OEM are a little different because, you know, for example, we provide you videos on the cloud, right? Which if you're a fleet owner, your safety manager would view and take action against, right? As an OEM manufacturer, the OEM really doesn't know if you as an end user customer would like to have that service or not, right? So that then we need to provision as an aftermarket. So therefore, we're in detailed discussions with a couple of the largest manufacturers to see what it is that as a bare minimum package, we can pre-install on vehicles so that at least 60 to 70% of the benefits can come through. And then if the end user customer chooses to have the video service, etc., we can add that on later. But yes, we are. The short answer is yes.
I have one question.
Sure. Sir.
I am an AI practitioner and we started in 2007 in state of Gujarat under Modi sir as CM, and
Right.
he was very highly excited about the idea.
Right.
So for many years of practice, I have realized that we talk a lot about AI without actually using one version of AI, which I call activation intensifier. When a project is not moving properly, or when the barriers are too much, or when transformation leads us to blind alleys, that is where activation intensification comes.
Absolutely.
What is the current level of budget in your business sphere or in transportation business sphere that we dedicate to AI so that AI can be used to help us protect?
Wow, what a question. Sir, actually, unfortunately, I don't have the statistics to give you an answer. But if I were to go by some of the figures that Praveen actually started the session in talking about, right? I thought you said that this year 18 trillion is approximately the chemical industry.
4.5 trillion.
4.5 trillion, moving to 18 trillion in by 2030 or something like that, right? Even if you take $4.5 trillion, right? And if you attribute that percentage that you said was to logistics, which was
Say, take a ballpark figure of
4%, right?
4 to 5%.
5% of that being the cost of logistics of chemical transport. Out of that 5%, if you were to only invest 1 to 2%, out of that, not keeping 3% aside, but if 5% is 100, even if you were to invest 1 to 2% on technologies such as AI and ML, the returns are huge.
And as we shift more to railways, the road logistics percentage goes up and it will be more safe roads.
Absolutely.
And we have currently a minister who is in charge of railway and IT. He is actually an engineer and IAS
Right.
who is looking at the possibility how to shift the road hazards and road transportation as a percentage
Into a much safer
rail,
area. Absolutely.
Into rail and pipeline, as Professor has
Absolutely.
rightly pointed out.
We will have a short break because it has been too long. Though we are running out of time, we will have a 10-minute break. You can take your tea and coffee and come back as quickly as possible. And I would request Yogesh Joshi if he can felicitate our speaker, Mr. Durgadutt Nedungadi.
That's fine. I just wanted to say a big thank you to all of you for being here and listening to us. Thank you very much.